Next on the show, I want to take a look at a movie that is opening this week in cinemas. It's called 6 Minutes to Midnight, and this film is very much the brainchild of Eddie Izzard. Now, she wrote this film based on what she saw in a museum one day near where she grew up. It's basically the story about a spy who is sent to work at a British school that is full of German students just before the outbreak of World War II. Now, this is largely based on a true story. I think some of the spy element to it might have been embellished a little bit for the film itself, but the school itself did exist. It was on the British coastline, and it was basically an upper-class school for German students. Now, because of that fact, a lot of the German students who were at the school were actually the daughters of high-ranking Nazi officials. And we see one in the film, but in real life, this school had a badge that on one side had the Union Jack and on the other side had the swastika. It is quite creepy to look and see something like that, especially considering that we're in Australia, a country that has the Union Jack on its flag. This film that Eddie Izzard has created is absolutely brilliant. Now, she also plays Thomas Miller, the spy at the center of this film. Basically, Miller is sent to this school to go underground to see what is going on, because they want to know, first of all, what the plans are for these girls. Do they know more than what they're letting on? Are there spies working within the school? There is so much, they have so many questions with what's going on that it is decided by, that it's time to basically investigate what is going on here. Now, the result is that Miller gets a job at the school. He's hired by Miss Rockhole, played by Dame Judi Dench, who is the headmistress at the school. And everything settles in quite well. He's even well received by Esla Keller, played by Carla Jury, who is another one of the teachers at the school. And the instant that Miller arrives at this school, he is trying to work out how much does Rockhole and Keller know about what's going on. Are they actually German spies themselves? Because he's got so many questions about what's going on, and his bosses want to know what is going on as well. But soon there is a murder, and it begins to appear like Miller might actually be the traitor. Now, as an audience, we know that's not the case because we see it from his point of view. But pretty soon he has people showing up that are basically wanting to hunt him down. Captain Dre, played by James Darcy, and Corporal Willis, played by Cillian Jones. And it becomes a game of cat and mouse. There's a great cameo in there as well by Jim Broadbent, playing Charlie, a bus driver who is only too happy to help out the English side of things, so his allegiance swaps a little bit in there as well. But this really is one of those cat and mouse kind of spy thrillers where poor Miller soon doesn't know who is on his side and who isn't. Add that to the fact that you've got these two officers now hunting him down, believing that he's responsible for espionage and murder, and the stakes rise up even greater. Now, Izzard is great in this film. I love the fact that Miller is not your standard James Bond-esque spy. He's not going to be involved in rooftop chases and things like that, and if he does, it's going to be a pretty slow affair. There's a brilliant scene in this where Miller is trying to escape the police after the murder happens, and running along the beach and running along the pier, it just feels really natural. There's a really natural feel to this film, even though it is a kind of spy war thriller. I saw this only a few days after I'd seen The Courier, and the two films are very similar in that natural style that I absolutely adore. As I said, Izzard is great in this film. so is Dame Judi Dench. She has a pretty tough role, and there's some things in here that you'd kind of wonder as an actress, was she comfortable doing them? At one point, she has to do a Heil Hitler, and it's like, wow, I wonder if Dame Judi Dench actually felt comfortable doing that. Like, it's important for the part, it's important for the role, and as usual, Dame Judi Dench is absolutely fantastic in this film. I was also a big fan of Carla Juri in this. I thought she did a great role where you don't know which side she's actually on. Is she on the Nazi side? Is she just an innocent teacher working at a school? You're not 100% sure. So I really, really love that element that she gets to play that kind of role. And also, I've got to give credit here to the filmmakers, because the filmmakers actually went and cast German actresses to play the German girls to make this film even more natural. And there's a standout here. There's a character called Astrid, played by a character called Maria Dragas, and she is absolutely fantastic. So I would not be surprised to see Maria Dragas and also Carla Juri receive more Hollywood roles after this, because they are absolutely fantastic. Now, the film is from director Andy Goddard, and he, again, does a great job with this film. I think a lot of the fact that this film is so natural, again, comes down to Goddard's work. He's worked on everything from Doctor Who through to Downton Abbey, so I think his work on Downton Abbey is what kind of gives him the kudos to work on this film, because he understands that time period, understands what it is involved to shoot something set in that time period, and he does it absolutely amazingly well with this film. There's some amazing cinematography in this film as well. Of course, filming on the British coast side, there is amazing, spectacular views throughout this film. There's some great shots that they managed to get when this is set on a cliff top or set on the beach. It's a fantastic film. I actually think that this is one of those movies that's going to be a very underrated film. I always find it interesting that people seem to want to flock and watch big epic spy movies like James Bond, but they'll let these little spy films like 6 Minutes to Midnight go by, which I think is a shame. This film is suspenseful. It teaches you about a period of history that I didn't know about. I love my war history, and I had no idea that there was a German school in Britain at the time that war was breaking out. So it teaches you something. It's got some great performances in it. I've read a couple of reviews where they've talked about the fact that the film could have been more suspenseful. I disagree. I think that this film, if it had been any more suspenseful, it wouldn't be believable. And I think the power of this film is that it is such a naturalistic film. I'm going to give this one 3.5 out of 5. If you like a good kind of naturalistic war thriller, then definitely check out 6 Minutes to Midnight. 3.5 out of 5 for me.